Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Brighter Horizons podcast. Welcome to episode 27, where today we are going to be discussing two main topics. The first main topic is the importance of peace of mind, how to attain it, and how it's beneficial for your life. And the second topic is going to be how to use dopamine to your advantage, because I feel like everybody's heard the word dopamine because, the dopamine hits from scrolling or whatever. It's such a popular thing. But I don't think people really know too much about it and what it really is for your body. Not that I do as well. I'm interested to learn as well from this discussion. But I wanted to kick things off by asking you, what do you think the importance is of a peace of mind?
Well, peace of mind, how do you define that? How would you define peace of mind? That's the question. Because I feel like that term is different for a lot of people.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know. I don't have a definition.
Okay,
I guess
well,
it's always
in my eyes, it's the fact that it's not that your brain avoids conflict, because you need to have conflict in your life to advance and grow. But I would say peace of mind to me is the ability to continue doing or to continue existing without excess worry. That would be my best way of putting it. So the reason why I think peace of mind is important is because let's say that you have a big project you're trying to take on. Okay, let's say, I don't know, you want to start a business, or you want to run a podcast, or you want to start something on social media. One thing that will slow you down is the excess of stress on other things in your life. So by mitigating a lot of these things, you can focus on what really matters to you. Like if you get too involved in a bunch of other people's lives, what does that show you? It shows that you're ruining your own peace by looking at what other people have going on, when that is completely irrelevant to you. Like I used to think in high school that knowing what was happening, like seeing what other people are posting, knowing what my friends are up to was important. But the second I graduated, I was like, damn, none of this stuff matters whatsoever. Like we all go our own ways. And at that point you realize all those years I thought about what those people were thinking and how their lives were going. It was literally just ruining my own peace. So what was the point of it all? So if you're out there focusing on what other people think about you, don't, because you're just ruining your own peace for no reason. And if you just keep that focus on what matters, all the excess stuff just becomes, background noise, and then eventually it just fades away and you're just focused on what actually matters to you.
It's like your own little pond of life. It's like a tide pool in the ocean, right? If you are a tide pool, you're not really concerned with what's going on a million miles out in the vast ocean. Right, you've got your own life, but if you're so focused on everything else that's out there, you don't realize the beautiful things that are within your own. And I wanted to talk more on the subjectivity of the peace of mind, because I never really thought about that. But I guess it's the same way that the way that we all perceive things is different. So one person being in a situation where one person would become agitated, they might not be. Right? They might not see it as a broken piece, if you will, right? Because, for example, certain conflicts to me wouldn't be as big issues as certain conflicts to you. Yeah. And that's obviously because I don't understand, your life and your pains. So when you're talking to people about peace of mind, it's impossible to make the generalization of what it really is. I feel like it's a very elusive topic. It's like perspective, right? We all perceive things differently, so we're going to see our own minds in completely different lenses.
Well, look at your tide pool analogy. If you stuck a tiny little hermit crab in a tide pool, he's going to be chilling and just living his life. But if you put a big octopus in there, he's going to try to get back to the ocean no matter what he does. So he'll be very uncomfortable in that situation and will not feel peace. But to a crab, he's chilling there like, oh, now there's less predators for me. I can live in this little micro habitat and enjoy my life. So the question you have to ask yourself is, what kind of a fish are you? And is the tank or, reef you're in big enough for your liking? If it's not, then go seek more. But if it is, then don't feel bad that other people are out there swimming to different regions when you aren't. There's no point in seeking somebody else's dream. That's something that most people don't understand, is that everybody's kind of obsessed with money and fame and power. But if that's not what you want to achieve, if you feel like the problems that come along the way or the journey itself doesn't seem appealing to you, then why do you want to do it because other people are telling you to?
Yeah.
It's not necessary. What you should do is you should ask yourself, what do you really want? Like for me, I'll be completely honest. Sometimes I lose sight of my own goals. I know where I want to go, but I don't always act like it. So I need to review my own mission and say, hey, what am I doing? Where am I trying to go? And then when I do that, I think, damn, the actions I have been, committing in the past couple of weeks, for example, haven't been pushing me towards where I want to be. So let me turn the sails a little bit and move in the direction that I need to go. But most people don't really take the time to even evaluate where they want to go in life. So if you are thinking, hey, I want to be rich, the first thought I would say is, why do you want to be rich? What do you want to have? Who are you getting rich for?
I remember that we asked this question to some people, and we had very varying answers about it, because nobody actually just wants money to have money. Usually they always want it for a reason. And also a lot of people get distracted by that fact, because they see all the stuff and they're like, oh, I want to buy this nice thing, I want to buy that nice thing. But you need to ask yourself, why do you really want that stuff? Is it really for you, or is it to show off to everybody else? Right? It's not really what you want. And then these people chase immoral ways of getting there. So you have a generation now that's so caught up in just money instead of actual moral good. So instead of doing real business practices or ethical ways of making money that benefit the world, like how entrepreneurs used to do, you just have a bunch of people creating burner companies making millions of dollars off of, broke people, and then posting about it on social media. And I wonder to myself, what do these people really have to gain? Because I don't think a lot of those people would die happy, because money isn't everything. Fame isn't everything. Power isn't everything. What's everything is you, your morals, and your inner peace of mind. Because when you die, that's all you're really left with, right? All that you will take with you is your mind. Because if you really want to think about it, the way that I think we both see it is that the mind is kind of dissociated from the body. They're not like one and the same. So when you die, your consciousness, your mind, whatever you want to call it, might live a little bit longer. And when you're stuck with that mind is going to reflect and be like, hey, what did you do during your lifetime? And if none of that aligns with who your mind thinks you are or who you should have been, then you're going to be left with a very agitated mind, because you didn't really do things the way that you were supposed to do them.
I think it's the feelings of regret, realistically. Okay, here's my question. Do you think that there's an afterlife? Or do you believe in reincarnation? Because that kind of influences your response to a lot of questions about life.
I don't know. I feel like I grew up on reincarnation, and now I'm thinking afterlife, but I don't know if I believe it. It's so hard to think. I feel like the question of what comes after death is the biggest question in history. And it's funny because I remember as a kid, I used to always think about it, that like, what if somebody just made a resurrection machine and then they killed themselves and then resurrected themselves to tell us what would happen? Because we would never know. But it's always been a big mystery. I've always wondered it. I've always thought about it. Like, what happens after you die? And
You just unlocked a crazy memory for me. As a kid, you know what I thought about?
what?
I had like some very existential thoughts as a child. I remember one day I couldn't sleep and I was thinking about what happens to us after death. And all I could see in my mind is I was almost in a dream state, but I wasn't sleeping. I was awake, but I was almost in a dream. And I was imagining what it looked like when we died. And all I could feel was just darkness. I couldn't see anything. I couldn't move. I couldn't feel. It was just nothingness. And I just sat there and I thought, do we really end up in an empty void at the end of all of this? I just feel like that's crazy. But at the same time, I feel like the answer to whether you believe in reincarnation or the afterlife is based on your belief on whether or not God created the universe or the universe created the universe. Atoms created the universe, the Big Bang, I guess.
Yeah.
Either way, I find it a very difficult topic to tackle because A, do you believe that all of this could have been created by chance?
I don't know. I mean, yeah, I guess, like the way that Cliff puts it, he always says that this world has order and system to it, and that suggests that an intelligent mind has created it. And I can agree to a certain degree, but again, it's hard to believe just there's a being out there that just goes, hey, guess what? Boom, Earth, right? Or the the universe in
Yeah.
general, right? I mean, again, it's just as unlikely to believe. Guess what? Universe, nothingness, boom, everything.
Yeah,
But
that's crazy. Like we started with literally nothing, then all of a sudden we're like, couple atoms.
right, so
Universe.
I don't know about it. I don't know what's been proven, what hasn't been proven. But how is this relating to the topic, man? You were gonna ask a question. What was your question? I actually got to know what this question is now. 'Cause now I'm very intrigued.
I asked you about reincarnation or the afterlife.
Yeah. Well,
What
no,
did
you
I
were gonna
say?
ask me something else before that.
Nope, I forgot.
Oh my god.
All that talking.
All
for
of that for absolutely nothing.
what? Man. Oh, now you're making me angry because I actually had such a good question and now I forgot. Whatever. Is what it is. Well, okay, you didn't even answer my question though. Which one do you believe in?
I don't know.
At this point in time.
It's so hard to think about. I just don't know. I genuinely have no idea.
I guess we'll come back to it on a future episode then.
Yeah.
You know what? We got to do some research on it and then. Oh my God! I got the idea. Debate. You versus me. We research each side and we debate it out.
I'm interested. That could be a future episode idea.
There
right
you go. Right there.
Yeah.
Brainstorming on the fly.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyways, run me through some of the things you were thinking about.
Well, I think that one prevalent problem is it prevalent or prevalent, or is it both?
Both. But like prevailing is a verb. I would say prevalent is probably more appropriate.
Okay. Well, a prevalent problem in today's society is overstimulation, and I suffer from it too. I'm no better than all of you. I guarantee you, this guy knows. Best of all, like when I'm watching oh my god. It's even worse. When I'm eating, I like to watch Netflix or YouTube, or, when I'm doing anything, I really like to be watching something. And at first, I was like, hey, I'm just multitasking, keep my brain busy. Otherwise, tasks are boring. But this gentleman was watching a YouTube video in the kitchen that I overheard, and it spoke about boredom and how important boredom is in your life. Because genuinely, you can't always be in this state of excitement because it's not real. That's what I meant. Maybe that's not what was said in the video, but this is what I'm drawing from it. Is that I think that all this happiness that we get from like our phones and such isn't real like happiness. I think real happiness comes from the people around you. And you become so reliant on like technology that you can't even function without it. And I saw this literally, was it 2-3 days ago at our house? We had we had a get together with our friends. We gambled a little bit. No real money, just for fun, obviously.
Indeed. We do not endorse gambling.
Do not endorse gambling. Absolutely not. And these guys, half of them were absolutely glued to their, like, we'd be playing poker. They'd fold and then immediately just on their phones.
No, that's true.
In a millisecond, instantly. But then we decided to set up a phone jail.
Oh, God.
And I'm not going to name drop, but a certain individual had a very big problem with this and was fiending to get his phone back. And I guess it just speaks to how we've literally become so attached to these little devices.
But it's not even his fault. The phone itself has been engineered in a way that it is a weapon.
It's so funny. I started seeing those videos on like my Instagram where it's like, this is not a phone. This is a $3 trillion military grade device created to ruin your brain.
Yeah,
And
that video is so powerful because like
know.
at that clip he shows just a brain just exploding, and I was like, damn, he's not wrong. It's so true. It's actually unbelievable how big companies have created such technologies that can completely hijack your entire brain.
I think what's even worse is that it's not just hijacking your brain, but your mind as well. This supposed what is it?
External?
Yeah, external. I don't know
Why did it
how,
take you
I
that
don't know
long to
why
get
I
that one?
blanked on that. But this external being that shouldn't be able to be affected by these material things, it's just completely corrupted it. Because you now only seek pleasure with the device.
Damn. That's actually a good point.
Yeah, it's very scary. It's like your mind is allergic to being quiet now. Because you've lived in this noisy world.
And
you know how, I don't know if it's like where in your life, if you don't eat a lot of a certain thing, you can develop an allergy to it. I don't know if that's true. I think I heard that somewhere, but I can't.
That probably does make sense because if you think about what an allergy is, it's just a response to something foreign to the body.
Yeah,
Right?
so like don't quote me on that, but I believe that there's some truth to it. We'll fact check that. But in any case, when your body doesn't experience something for a long time, it becomes to feel like it shouldn't happen, right? Like things that don't happen for a while feel like they shouldn't happen unless you've been expecting them to happen. But with these devices, they become so common to just be on it that when you're not on it, it feels like you need to be in a panic state because you're missing something very important. That's like a thing that a lot of people with addictions start to deal with, is because when they have addictions, they feel like the withdrawal symptoms, where when they go away, they feel like something's missing. But I would say that you need to learn to live without these things that you consider to be so important in your life. You need to sometimes live with you need to live without the things that are loud. Sometimes a quiet life isn't so bad, and sometimes it's an extremely important thing. Because think about it, a quiet mind is of course, like the biggest analogy is like your mind is like water. So take the Uguay quote where your mind is like water. When it is agitated, it becomes difficult to see. But when you let it become calm, the answers become clear. I don't remember if that's exactly the quote. I think I paraphrased it slightly. But the meaning still stands. The meaning being that you are never, ever, ever going to be able to see the true answers to any of your problems if you're constantly stuck in all this noise. It's a loud world. And if you keep yourself so attached by these loud devices, you're never going to be able to experience the quietness of your own mind.
Well, that's exactly what peace of mind is also about. If you really think about it, to those of you that have never tried it, just sit down for 10 minutes in complete silence and close your eyes and just sit there and see if you can actually sit for 10 minutes without moving. I guarantee you half of our friend group probably couldn't do it, or half the people watching this probably couldn't do it. And that's a problem. The fact that we have completely ruined boredom for us. Why is it that humans become bored, if you think about it? It's because we're not doing anything. So then what does the mind do? It tries to find something to occupy itself with. So what does it do? It thinks. It comes up with ideas because it doesn't have anything else to do. The mind doesn't sit there idly. Even in boredom, the mind finds something to do. And that's why when you're doing something that doesn't blast your brain with extra hits of dopamine, like scrolling or gaming or anything, when you sit in silence and do something just in the moment, you come up with a lot of great ideas because your mind is still working. It's not trying to occupy itself. If you really think about it, all these things are just taking away from our brain's ability to think. Because if you say the brain has 100% performing capability, okay, then when you're scrolling or gaming or doing any of these other distractions, let's say it takes up 50% of your cognitive ability. Now, the remaining 50% will be used for ideas, but it's in such a background noise fashion. It's not really the main focus of the brain. So there's no point in taking away from the brain's ability to think when it was built to function on 100%. It was built to think exclusively in some moments. That's why being bored is actually important.
But you know what's super sad
What?
about that is that it's even existent in literally our day-to-day lives and we don't even notice it. Think about all the Instagram Reels or TikToks you see with Subway Surfers playing in the background.
Yo, that's actually so true.
It's literally made to split your brain in two, so you have to focus on two things at the same time. And then that way you're focusing on trying to consume as much content as possible. Instead, why couldn't it just be one thing? Like I'm hearing some Reddit story about some stupid stuff with the AI voiceover plus Subway Surfers or Minecraft parkour in the background. And it's way too many things. And kids are being subject to this. And then they wonder why, the kids have ADHD. No, they're being overstimulated on a day-to-day life. That's what it is.
Well, they're being forced with ADHD.
Exactly. You're literally letting your mind become corrupt with this stuff. I see so many kids nowadays that can't sit still for 5 seconds. And people credit it to ADHD, and I'd say, sure, maybe it is, but it's a created one, not a real one. It's not one that came from the brain or from birth, but one that was created. One that was implemented.
Genetic. It wasn't genetic. It was artificial.
Yeah, exactly. It's an artificial It's ADHD, artificial ADHD.
That's valid.
I'm crowning a new term for it. Because you don't need that much stimulation. Sometimes you just need to calm the brain down. It's like, for example, I'd say if you really want to start meditating, the first thing you should do is get into bed like at least 30 minutes earlier than you normally would. And instead of going on your phone to watch something before you go to sleep, just lie down. That's where I'd say my best thinking occurred. Like way back, I used to have, or I guess I still do, I have big trouble sleeping. Like I'm not a big sleeper. So I usually stayed up for a couple hours. And before, I used to use my phone all the time, like watch something until I pass out. But then I started to just stray away from it slowly and slowly. And I just plug my phone to charge and I'd be like, you know what? Actually, no, this started because we used to have to leave our phones in our parents' room before we went to sleep. So we would plug our phones to charge over there and then we'd go to bed. And I think that's one of the best decisions they could have ever made for us. Because not sleeping with your phone next to you is really important. It's really vital. Because sometimes I'll be like about to fall asleep and then someone will send me like a text at like 1 a.m. and then I open the text and it has no meaning. But now I'm woken up again. And now I'm on Instagram and now I might as well scroll. It's like a bad chain of events. So to those of you struggling with sleeping, I'd say leave your phone in another room. And also, that brings us to this book, Atomic Habits. I'm going to actually take it off the shelf. I guess it's mirrored for you. But
GOAT.
Atomic Habits, we have talked about this book so much on the podcast, absolutely so much, because it's an absolutely amazing book. And one thing that it talks about is that rooms should be designated for activities, or places at least. So, for example, your bed should be designated to sleeping, because instead, you shouldn't go on your bed and play video games or watch Netflix or watch YouTube or do anything. Don't do anything on your bed aside from sleep. The reason is that way, whenever you do go to bed, your brain is going to subconsciously tell itself, hey, it's time to go to sleep. Because every time that I go to bed, every time I lie down in this specific place, I begin to sleep. It's the same way that school should be, although I don't think it has been for many kids, is usually a place where you become quiet. Because it's kind of like a respectful thing. Or like a church, for example, let's say. Usually when you walk into a church, you're not all loud and yelling because you know the environment. Your body subconsciously tells itself, hey, it's time to be quiet. This is a quiet place. So whenever you have these habits that you want to build good sleep habits, good work habits, associate places with those habits. Don't try to intertwine them. Because when you start to intertwine things, it's when it becomes messy. Because it's no longer clear. It's like having two balls of yarn and mixing them up. You're never going to get them unseparated. Now they've become entangled forever. So when you want to reach to grab whatever that red piece is, you're going to pull a whole lot of blue with it. And that's not what you want. You want clear-cut solutions. So you can't get that from a not clear-cut problem.
Mm-hmm. True.
And yeah, I guess that's what I was going to say.
Okay,
I was going to build something, but I'll do that later.
No, that's fine. Well,
Yeah.
to me, the reason why that book was so important is the whole association game. Because if you really think about it, your mind is functioning off of cues and responses. That's all it is. It's just call and response in your brain. So when you see something, your brain thinks something. That's all it is. That's life in a nutshell. Your senses feel something and your mind reacts to it. So the question is, how do you build cues for good habits and remove cues for bad habits? So for example, you just mentioned, oh, I'll get a notification at 1 a.m. and then now I'm on Instagram. The worst part about that is I guarantee you that message was probably from one of your friends who sent you a post about aura or something dumb like that. I guarantee it, all right? So you'll open Instagram, but the reason why you opened Instagram is because you got the notification. The notification is the cue, okay? And essentially what that does is it tells your brain, oh my God, wait, there's a chance to get more dopamine. So I'll actually draw this out on a graph. Here, hold on. Let's do this real quick. So if we do a little squiggly line like this. Oh yeah, it's all coming together now. All right, so imagine, will it focus? I can't tell if it's focused or not. Can you see it?
It's absolutely not visible at all.
Okay, well, whatever. It was an experiment. Point is, let's just imagine that you have like a line here, okay? All right, line here. Dopamine is like a wave. There's always going to be dopamine in your brain. You're not going to be able to remove it because dopamine is just, realistically, it's just a biochemical in your body.
Yeah.
It's a neurotransmitter. It's always going to be there. So let's imagine that your baseline dopamine level is just like moving around like up and down on this area. So a cue, what it does is it shoots it up a little bit, okay? And then it comes back down. Then the point of scrolling and going on Instagram, the reason why you even open it and go there in the first place is because you're looking for a reward or the response that your brain expects from that cue. Yeah. So the cue will take you up to here. But if you start scrolling, then the reward will be massive. So it'll be like here. You'll get a huge amount of dopamine from that. And that's the reason why just by looking at a notification, your brain automatically thinks, wait, we could actually get something really cool out of this. So I'm going to start scrolling.
And I see the call and response thing being so bad because I think that in before times, call and response, like for example with the YouTube video, is like close towards the like beginning and end of a YouTube video. At the end, you're like, you know what? I'm happy I got all this stuff from this YouTube video. That was a funny video or whatever. Now with shorts, it's your call is every time you scroll, every time that thumb moves or whatever finger moves, boom, call. You see the video, response, call, response, call, response, call, response, call, response. It's so much quicker. It's just like bang, bang, bang. That it becomes foreign for you to have those longer term dopamine hits because your brain literally can't fathom it because it's been so fried by constantly just call, response, call, response, call, response. It no longer has the ability to think slowly, call, and in a while I'll get a response.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, like the reason why it's such a big deal is because it completely ruins the rest of your life for you. And the reason why is, you know, I was just telling you that like you have a baseline amount of dopamine. Like let's imagine that this is the amplitude of the wave. So you're going about up, down, up, down, up, down in this little like valley area. Okay. So when you start using phones consistently, when you eat, when you sit down, when you're working, no matter what you're doing, you're always looking at a screen and you're stimulating your brain. What happens is the baseline grows. So now your baseline is about this big, let's say. So now your baseline is operating about this area and it's consistently saying we need this much dopamine to continue functioning. So then what do? You start gaming for longer because now in order to get a dopamine hit, you have to exceed this much. Like you have to exceed this area for it to even count as a hit now, right? So it's a lot like building tolerance to drugs or alcohol. At first, let's say that you try the devil's lettuce for the first time and...
What is that?
You've never heard that?
No idea what that is.
Bro, come on, man.
What is that?
You don't know what that is?
No.
I feel like we're going to get demonetized if I say it, so that's why I'm not trying to say it.
Is it drugs?
Think about the most recreational drug on the planet.
Okay. That's what it is?
Yeah, that's what it's called.
Nobody calls it that.
People have called it that,
it's
but
called grass. More often than it's called that. Nobody's ever called it that.
Nobody calls it grass.
Some people call it grass.
Grass grows on your lawn.
Yeah, but like, you know that one JonTron video? What's this grass that you're smoking?
No, that's true. That's very true. I love John. Well, it's a very controversial statement to say, but
why?
I like JonTron's videos.
Wait, why?
Oh, I guess you don't really know, but like he got involved in some...
Controversy?
Yeah. But either way, that doesn't take away from his videos. They were funny. But
that's true.
Him as a person, not so much. Either way, sidetrack. Point is, imagine that you smoke for the first time. Your entire body, your mind will just go whoosh, off the charts dopamine. It'll go crazy. But then as you continue to become a recreational user, the amount that you need to get that same feeling is going to increase because your body starts to get used to, oh, this is our new baseline dopamine level. That's why people seek higher and higher things. So, for example, when people tell me like, oh, just because I do that doesn't mean that I'm going to go and do something worse.
Yeah, it does.
Like a hard drug. But realistically, if you become a recreational user, at some point you likely will because you're seeking a higher high.
I'd say it's the same way with like pre-workout and caffeine in today's society. So a lot of people are like, oh man, this Red Bull does nothing to me. I have to have 10 of them before I go to the gym. And I'm just like, that's not good, my guy. Like, you're not supposed to drink that much caffeine. You're supposed to be smarter about it. Clearly, you've built up a tolerance, so you need to detox it. So same way, you're building up you guess you could say even tolerance to smaller dopamine hits. And you become so addicted to these bigger ones that you just need to be hitting massive highs all the time to actually feel anything. And that's why I think you need to do that kind of a cleanse where you walk away from it for a little. And I think like the way that I put it is you cannot enjoy moments in an angry life just as you cannot catch fish in an angry or in a raging river, right? If you ever tried fishing in like whitewater rivers, I don't know if people do that. I don't think they do because it's probably pretty difficult, right? Your line's just going to go all the way down the river. But point being that when you don't have a peace of mind, you can't really enjoy things in life. If you're always angry, if your mind is always agitated, you're never going to be able to pick out the good moments because they're not clear, right? Think about a lake. It's pretty damn easy to see where the fish might be in a clear lake, but it's really hard to see them in a moving river. So if you can still your mind, you'll be able to pick out those good moments a lot easier. And I think that dopamine will be a lot easier to find. And it'll be a lot more enjoyable because I think you'll be getting the right kind of dopamine, the ones that really matter. When your mind is clear, you see clear solutions to your clear problems. And I think that in our world, it's too easy to get wrapped up in false solutions. Because, for example, with your problems, instead of dealing with them, you do something else to get rid of them or to not think about it. I think that I hate when people say that is I do this to take my mind off of my problems. And I always think, is that really what you want? To not think about the issue that you should be solving? Of course, it's difficult. Like, I'm not saying that it's going to be lovely, but think about that's kind of the point of like therapy is to talk about your problems because guess what? They exist and running away from them isn't going to solve them. And this is something that I am actually reflecting on right now because I've been doing a hell of a lot of running lately. And your life and your problems aren't going to run away from you. They're going to run towards you. And at some point, you're going to have to face them. So you need to be able to... Oh, man, where was I going with this?
Therapy, solving your problems.
Yeah, so reflecting. When you're reflecting, you need to be able to clearly see your problems. Because if you don't see who your enemy is, how are you expecting to beat them?
Well, running away from your problems is like ignoring a hole in a ship, even though it's taking on water. It makes no sense. If you're about to sink your own ship because water is filling up the cabin, why are you saying, oh, let me go get drunk instead of plugging up this hole? It makes absolutely zero sense. Mm-hmm. So it's the same thing in real life. If you have a problem, let's say you're failing out of school or something's wrong in your relationship with your parents or your siblings or your loved ones, why are you running away from that problem and seeking external sources of happiness when realistically, if you just solve the problem, your life would be 10 times better? Mm-hmm. And that's the tragic part about this society is that we create distractions. We create things that can pull you away and make you believe that everything is all right. Sometimes I wonder if we would be better off if we just removed all the technology from our house. Sometimes I genuinely think about that. Even though, obviously, we wouldn't be able to do this anymore. But to me, at least, like, for example, I deleted Netflix. I deleted a lot of the games off my phone. And I intend to delete all of my social media. And the only thing that sucks is I'd have to download them every day to post our videos and then delete them again.
Yeah.
But that's something I'm willing to do if it helps me stay out of getting my brain blown to bits by this stupid weapon of mass destruction. Mm-hmm. But either way, you said something about good dopamine versus bad dopamine. Mm-hmm. It's funny because I'm not a neuroscientist, so I don't know everything about it. But in my eyes, the way I see it is dopamine is simply a chemical, right? Like I said, it's a neurotransmitter. So the mind and body don't know a difference between good dopamine and bad dopamine. It's more so of a response after the dopamine, or also a morality question for us as humans as to what counts as good or bad dopamine. So for example, if you do something that later you regret, but in the moment you enjoyed, the feeling of regret later on will make that activity seem bad in your eyes.
Because at the moment you thought it was good.
Because you were simply seeking dopamine.
Yeah.
So it's up to you to discern what you believe is bad dopamine and what you believe is good. Now, at the same time, I'm actually kind of shocked at how simple-minded majority of the population has become. Because I had an interesting conversation with somebody in the gym yesterday, and he was telling me about what he did to grow his social media and how he constructed his account and the wording he used and how all these things are important. And he was telling me, bro, you need to be so clear with things nowadays because people just don't think beyond the first layer. It's you see something and then that's all. You don't think further than that. That's what we've reduced ourselves to. For example, when you watch a video, people lay out everything in such a clear and chronological format that you don't have to critically think anymore. You just watch the video and it tells you everything you need to know. But now the problem is when other people tell you things, you simply believe it at face value. For example, look at the government, right? You'll believe everything they say. Well, maybe not you specifically, but a lot of people will believe what the government says at face value without doing any research. Think about it. Think about the last time the government said something controversial or something you didn't agree with. Did you do any research into whether it made any sense, or did you look at what they were actually proposing? When they pass a new law, do you ever look at whether it's important or not? Of course not, because to the average civilian, we just think, oh, it doesn't really matter. Like, we're going to live our own life and do whatever. They're going to keep making laws. And it's true, they are. Realistically, you reading that book of laws is not going to tell you a whole lot, and it's not going to change your life. But what it will do is it allows you to critically think that step further. It allows you to look behind the surface and see what are they really hiding. Because, for example, Eric was telling me that in a couple of laws that the United States recently passed, in the first 50 pages, they're saying, oh, let's just say one law, for example, is that people who illegally immigrate here cannot vote, okay? That's one thing that is plainly in there. Then at the very end of 1,000 pages, they're saying, oh, but if they feel like a patriotic American, they can vote. So it completely contradicts what they said in the very beginning, but it's hidden in the fine print, so you don't know. So imagine what these social media companies are programming into their content that you're not even thinking about. It's completely weaponized against you, and if you don't realize it now, you're going to completely screw yourself over.
I think that's one of the biggest faults of the school system is that it has a perfect system for teaching us this, but they don't. Like, I'd say English is one of the most unanimously hated classes out there.
Yep.
Like, most people absolutely hate English, and they think it's a stupid class. But I'd say if you didn't I think first off, English is very important. You need to learn to be a fluent speaker and have a vast vocabulary. But more importantly, the actual skills you develop from English are far more important than the knowledge. That's why everybody's current mentality of memorization is so, I don't want to say foolish, but that's what it is. Everybody's trying to memorize everything to get through school to get the highest grade. But you should actually be concerned with absorbing topics. This is something that me and Abby talked about, is how in school, everybody's memorizing, but they're not actually learning. And it's a travesty because that's kind of the whole point of school, is to learn. And with English, one of the main things you do is what you read. And when you read, what do? You look behind for the deeper themes. I'd even say if you want to actually practice this, you could watch movies. And it sounds crazy, but the deeper themes in some movies are absolutely insane. Like, for example, La La Land, which we talked about on the episode with Abby. We talked about the deeper themes in that movie that I didn't really see because I kind of took the movie at face value. I didn't do the critical thinking to understand what was the point of what they said. Why did certain things happen? Why was this like this? Why was this like that? I didn't even think about it. And then Abby brought it up and I was like, damn, I never thought about it that way. And in our lives, I think that's the beautiful thing, is to see that there's more than what meets the eye. There always is. It's such a common phrase, but we don't even live by it. We always take things at face value and expect that to be the whole truth, but it's not. So you need to practice seeing the deeper themes, which is why I would have said pay attention to English. Any of you that are still in school, make sure you pay attention in English class because you do that very, very often. And it actually did help me. I began to look at the deeper themes of the readings that we were doing, and I was like, damn, this author's actually kind of pretty smart. This is a good theme. I should really apply this to my life.
Well, I think that there's good aspects and bad aspects of English. In my opinion, people hate it for its bad aspects, but don't appreciate its good aspects.
Yeah.
If you really think about it, that's what most people do in all of life. You hate all the bad parts, but you don't appreciate the good ones. That's why you're sad or mad or whatever negative emotion you're feeling. So realistically, you do have to appreciate the good things about it. So what good things can I say about English? Well, it helps you embrace critical thinking, looking between the lines, and coming up with some creative solutions in certain situations where they ask for questions that you may not know the cookie cutter answer to it, but I'm sure that you can draw something out of that paragraph and write something. My only problem is the subjectivity of the English subject makes it really annoying to try and score marks in. For example, you could write something that you think is really, really good, and let's say the teacher doesn't agree with your opinion. Now, all of a sudden, even if they don't want to be biased, realistically they are. If you have something that they are strongly against in your paper, they will immediately take that as a situation
See,
where...
I have to disagree with you here.
Okay, that's... Okay,
And we'll have a short debate on this. But it's actually, okay, I guess partially disagree with you because in real schooling, they actually have a grade for English. Like, they have an actual scale of how your writing is measured. It's not as subjective. Ladies and gentlemen, big apologies on our part for the technical difficulties. We experienced a couple, but we're back. We're back now, so do not fret, do not worry. We're going to continue exactly where we left off. If I remember correctly, we're talking about, like, just to put this in perspective for you guys, just so you know, it's been like a whole work day's worth of time since we recorded the first bit of this episode. So if we seem kind of offset or the energy's different, that's probably why. And maybe that's a testament to how doing things in your life can really change your mood. It's not really the time, I think.
Yeah, I was gonna say because this morning we were recording that in the morning.
Yeah,
and then you were
I know I was dead. I will admit that I was like, if when you're editing, you were to cut to me while you were talking, sometimes I was like, like I knew I was just out of it. I was super tired and I was not feeling it. But now it's nighttime. I'm ready to go to bed, but I did work, and now that's just got me fully energized.
Maybe that's literally all we need to do to completely revolutionize your life. Imagine you wake up early in the morning. I think that's why people start their days off with runs, which is something I really want to start doing. But if you get a task out of the way immediately, you feel really good.
I know, and it's interesting because I think just when you get things done, your life feels so much better. Mm-hmm. Because yesterday, we didn't do anything.
No, it sucked.
And yesterday was a bad day. Like, it was super...
Well, to put it in perspective, our definition of a bad day is that we didn't do anything worthwhile with our time, not that we starved to death.
But I think... Oh, yeah, okay, you're right.
That too. We didn't do anything bad either. We just were lazy.
We just did nothing.
Yeah.
Like, I just sat there. I watched Netflix for so long. I got into so much mindless nothingness that at night I was just like, what did I just do today? What was that day? And I felt like the whole day, no matter what I did, I felt so tired and exhausted. Like, I could barely keep my eyes open. Same thing with this morning. Is I woke up and I was on my phone for a little bit, and then we came to record, and I couldn't feel good. I just couldn't open my eyes. But now, completing a workday, even though it's about time for me to wind down, I feel so much more energized and alive.
Funny enough, the more you do, the more alive you feel.
Yeah, it's like the more you do, the more you can do. It's like a stacking feature.
Damn, that's actually a good point. It's almost like using your engine charges your battery.
Yeah, exactly, precisely. Because, so you have to differentiate engine being purpose, goal, moving forward in your life, and battery is your recreation.
Or like your mood.
Yeah, so like, I don't know about that.
Okay.
Because the way I would have said it is like, again, it's your analogy, so it's... But
well, no, you're building on it,
adapting it, like imagine you have a car with an engine, and that's what really drives the car forward. The battery doesn't, I guess that's not really true, but suppose in this analogy, the battery doesn't really drive the car, but instead it provides like the aux, the music, right? The screen that you will want to maybe watch a movie on or something, right? That's what the battery does. It provides the energy for enjoyment. Because think about it, the engine doesn't really do much, except move you towards your purpose, unless you're one of the people who enjoys the purpose. In the same way in life, when you do good things that move towards your purpose, a lot of the time you'll enjoy that. But some people don't find as much enjoyment in it.
I feel like if you're not enjoying moving towards your purpose,
you're moving in the wrong way.
A, you're moving in the wrong way. Or B, it's just because I think this is something that most people struggle with, like we were talking about with dopamine earlier. It's that you're getting the dopamine from all these garbage sources, that the real hits that could be coming from working on the projects don't arrive because you're so used to having dopamine from all these other things that you're just at a higher baseline level all the time. So when you actually get that task done, like cleaning your room or going on that run, lifting the weights, working on the business, doing all these things, they don't feel as good because you've clouded your mind with all this false sense of success.
Yeah.
And all you've done is just watch 50 Instagram reels that you can't even name. So what was the point of it all? Nothing. So next time, actually look for that dopamine hit from something that matters, something that you feel fulfilled, something that is tough. That's when you'll feel good. It's in that same video that I watched. He said that on days where I feel like I earned my time on my phone, I feel good watching things on my phone. But on the days where I didn't earn it and all I did was enjoy my phone time and sit there in a lazy manner, I don't enjoy even scrolling, even though I'm supposed to enjoy it. It's when you earn it that you can really start to enjoy something.
Yeah, it's the same way that a lot of, I'd say, rich kids don't enjoy the luxuries they're given to them as much as somebody who works there. Right? The people who started from the bottom and now they're here are going to respect the top a lot more than those who were born to it. And I actually wanted to backtrack a little, back to what we were actually talking about when the episode got cut, because I wrote it down. And we're talking about how English isn't as subjective as many people think. And we were having a little short debate about this. But the way I see it is, first off, there's two things, two schools, or 2 points main points to my argument. First point being that there is actually a subjective or objective English grading scale. I don't know if it's implemented in just every public school district, but I know private schools and then AP and IB programs use them properly, so like they can actually score English effectively. And then my second point is that you said maybe your teacher doesn't agree with what you write. But I think if you're a good enough writer and you have enough substantial evidence to support your claim, you should be able to, 1, convince the teacher to believe your side, and if not, 2, make the teacher respect your side. The places where people fault and lose in that sense is when you argue a bad stance with a bad argument. You need to be able to argue a bad stance with a great argument, or have a good stance with a bad argument, or have good both.
I feel like you need a good argument regardless, but let's talk about a good argument here. What if the substance of your paper isn't the concern here? Because when I say a teacher doesn't like you, I'm not saying that your teacher just doesn't disagree. Like, it's not just that your teacher disagrees with your opinion. It could be that the teacher disagrees with you as a whole. For example, I can't name drop, but we both know somebody who actually puts in the work in English. The guy actually puts in effort, and yet for some reason, his teacher just hates him.
Well, no, at the end, he got a good result.
On like 1 or 2 assignments.
No, like his overall grade was good.
Oh, okay, fair. But like throughout the entire year.
I think it's also that I don't want to like talk about this because it's so specific, because it's a very specific life.
I mean, he'll know that we're talking about him.
In that class, obviously, I think he was snubbed in the first term, definitely. But really, one thing you need to do is compare to the people around you. Because especially for English teachers, it's difficult, because if you have one student writing at a super high level and the rest, and you have a couple that aren't, the couple look a far more worse than the person
Far worse.
Far worse, yeah, you're right. Far worse than the person at the very top. It's like, oh my God, and then even though these people are like still at a mid-range or an acceptable level, it doesn't seem as acceptable because you've seen such greatness. And in our class, I'd say there were a lot of people that were pretty great.
Well, shouldn't that be a fault in the grading system? Because just because you have a
I think
star that shines
also
bright?
that teachers are humans; they're not robots. So,
well, regardless, it's not fair for you to say that just because I'm a human, I'm going to fail your son or daughter.
well, it's not failing. I'd say there's a slight amount of
Well, what if that 1 or
subjectivity.
2% was enough for them to not get into their dream school, and now their entire life trajectory is off?
Do you want to replace teachers with robots? Be my guest. I don't think you could, and I don't think they would do even as close of a good job. I think the personal aspect of a teacher is far out. The benefits of a in-person teacher far outweighs that of the like grading scale. Think about Kumon, for example. Take that. We both went through the entire. Did you go through reading?
Yeah.
Yeah, we both went through all of reading.
You finished reading?
Yeah, I just haven't picked up my plaque.
Yeah, you're a monkey.
All right, well,
Buddy, how the hell did you not pick that up?
that
It's been
doesn't matter. That's not the
years.
point. The point being that both of us went through Kumon English, and I am willing to bet a gazillion dollars that not one iota of that time really benefited me. Like genuinely, I'm willing to bet that. I think I got all of my English speaking skills from Toastmasters and school, and speaking with other people.
Well, granted, you can't really say speaking skills because Kumon English had nothing to do with speaking.
Well,
It was all about
and my writing skills.
it was all about reading and interpretation.
Genuinely, for example, in school, this English semester, I did very well. I'm very happy with how I did. And I consider it crazy that I improved from, I'd say, this level to like a this level in that semester. Now, I don't want to say that was entirely because of my teacher. I think it was because of the dude who sat next to me.
Yeah, I was going to
But
say.
overall, I think the in-person teacher method is far better than just simply getting a score. Because that's what you do in Kumon. All it is about getting a score. See if you can get pinned on the 100% board. It's a waste of time. And the way that a teacher teaches is far better. And I'd rather take that risk. Because in the end, maybe going to your dream school is important, but I think learning the material is
True,
very
but okay,
important.
here's my point. The reason why I say this is there's a lot of controversy around the way that governments implement politics into the education system. And a lot of teachers like to talk about their stances or influence students' thinking on these issues. And I don't think that's right. And more importantly, because a kid has an opinion that differs from the teacher's, sometimes he or she can be treated poorly, which is not fair in my eyes. And the truth is, we know somebody like that who expressed opinions, who said, hey, I believe in this. And it wasn't something detrimental or rude or discriminatory to anybody. It was just what he believed in. And then the teacher struck him down, called his parents, like sent him off to the principal's office, and threatened to have him expelled for expressing an opinion. And that's somebody we know, right? Closely. We know this person closely. But imagine all the cases where we don't know these people. I'm sure this happens a lot in school where kids have opinions or they write a stance on something that is not extreme. And yet because of the subjectivity of the subject, that's a very interesting sentence.
Yeah, okay, can I ask you a question then?
Mm-hmm.
What is your proposed solution? Because you seem to bring this idea of, oh, the world is doomed, but now what's
My proposed solution is there should be clauses written into the way that we design the education system. And they should state that politics should be left out of school. Now, it's difficult to say that because where do you draw the line between politics and human rights? Because on one hand, saying that, for example, equality is important is fair. I don't have an issue with that. But my problem becomes where we start to say, oh, now you're influencing kids to believe that, let's say, for example, affirmative action is a good thing. Now, granted, you're free to and entitled to have your own opinion on it. But I think that it's fair for them to come to that conclusion, not for the teachers to indoctrinate them into it. Because realistically,
I agree with this, but our point was about the subjectivity of marking, no?
yeah, well,
I don't think political opinion, I agree it should stay way far from the classroom, but I don't think it's possible, and I think genuinely impossible for a subject like English, for a teacher to give a grade without having an own personal bias. That's why I think that students should try and cultivate good relationships with their teachers, but if you can't, at least be a good goddamn writer.
To me, it sounds like you're just saying that just because a teacher doesn't like me, I need to suck up to them and say things that aren't true.
No, I'm not saying agree with their... Like, okay, my thing is political stance. If you are good enough that you are so rooted in your ways, you should 100% be able to explain that without being, 1, accusatory, or 2, violent in any way, and 3, in a calm, collected, cohesive manner that clearly explains your point. If you're unable to do that, then don't blame the teacher.
Well, my point is not that my point is that even if you're capable of it, a teacher could still say, oh, I see these problems with it. And boom, now they've flunked you.
Well, then you debate it.
Well,
Realize
okay,
that you can debate a teacher. That's not illegal. And if something's that wrong, you can go talk to the principal. Like, you aren't in the wrong. If you fully believe what you're saying, then 100% of the time, you can definitely get out of it.
Okay, do you know the process for actually challenging a teacher's mark on a subject?
It's not that difficult.
Do you know?
No, but I'll take a gander. You just go and talk to them. That's what you do. And then you say, hey, this is baseless. Or you take like a friend's and be like, hey, my friend wrote something of the exact same degree. Why is their mark better than mine? It's that simple.
And then the teacher says, it comes up with some false reason, and then you go to the principal and you say blah, blah, blah. Then the principal doesn't do anything about it because he wants to save face.
No, absolutely not. Why would a principal do that?
Because
Open himself up to getting like sued?
Is
a teacher purposely grading one student's work as worse than another's for no legitimate reason is 100% wrong.
Well, obviously, I don't disagree with that.
And it would definitely face severe action, especially if it's like affecting a graduation requirement or like going to a university.
Okay, well, either way, I mean, I feel like this is a long conversation topic, which we just used like our entire last bit of the episode for. But if you're watching this and you've had experiences with teachers that didn't like you and you went through situations, because I've had experiences like that. Personally, I've had a lot of experience with teachers who didn't like, well, not a lot of experience, but the few experiences I had remain very prevalent in my memory. But to those of you that have had experiences like that, drop it in the comments and tell me which, I don't want to say side, but which side you're on, because it is a bit of a difficult topic to discuss. On one hand, you're not wrong in saying that if you were good enough, it would be fine.
No, my point is that you don't have a solution. That's my only problem, is that you're bringing up a problem
here's
that
my
there's no
thing.
solution.
There is already a solution. I don't need to reinvent the wheel.
What's the solution?
If these IB schools and private schools have a designated curriculum saying you need to use these specific things to get marks in English, why don't they implement that in public schools too? Because I guarantee you they don't have that at all the public schools around the area.
Yeah, I completely agree. But I think there's a reason for it.
And why is that? Because they pay more money to go to school, they get a better education? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, literally
Literally
precisely.
capitalism.
Why do you
That's
think,
what it was.
like, if you think about it, why do AP and IB classes exist in some schools and not others? They should exist in all, no? But no, it's because they cost money.
True, very true.
But in any case, we kind of just used up all the time left over in the episode.
Yeah, whatever. It was a good conversation.
It was a great conversation. But, hey, just as you could convince your teacher, or actually the only way that you would be able to convince your teacher to give you a better mark is if you do it with a clear and peaceful mind. Mm-hmm. If you go at your teacher accusatory, kind of like how we were going back and forth here, you're definitely going to end up in a bad situation. If you face life with anger and without a peace of mind, you're definitely going to fall into a lot more traps than you think you would.
Yeah, and you got to know how to, know when to step back and give space. Like, for example, you and me, we might be going back and forth, throwing jabs at each other in an argument, but the point is to come to an agreement. And still, I can sit here across the table from you, and I haven't thrown my microphone at you or anything like that.
Yeah.
So even if we get into a heated debate, I know we'd still be pretty chill.
Yeah.
So just know how to do that. The point is, life is not as serious as you like to take it. Not every conversation is going to be critical. You just got to keep a calm and peaceful mind and just think critically.
Now, before you guys go as we're wrapping up this episode, y'all already know what time it is. It is time for Quote
of
the
Week.
Hit 'em.
Quote of the week. Worldly pleasures will not fill your spiritual void. And that was a quote from a reel. Funny enough, it was a video of these two medieval knights, and they're shaking hands, and it's from some kind of video game. And one of them says to the other, he says, "I'm very proud of you, my brother. Congratulations on joining the good side," or something like that. And it was captioned saying, when bro finally realizes that worldly pleasures will not fill his spiritual void. So all the partying, all the drugs, all the alcohol, all the video games, all the Netflix is not going to fill your need for purpose or progress in life. And that leads us to the whole dopamine conversation, where you have a chemical in your brain that dictates whether you're happy. Question is, where are you getting it from? So find it in something that actually means something to you, and find it in something that is good for you, something that fulfills you, like oatmeal. It sustains you. Yeah, good. You got that one.
Obviously. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for sticking around to the very end of episode 27 of the Brighter Horizons podcast. Thank you guys so much for the support throughout 27 episodes. Every time that we make a new episode, I feel so happy, and I find it crazy that we're at this amount of episodes. I know it's only increasing by one each time, but you got to celebrate the little wins. You know, every step that you make on your way, you got to enjoy it. But in the meantime, make sure that you search for the good dopamine in life and ignore that bad, nasty dopamine. And make sure that you clear your mind, live in a peaceful world, and make sure you live a positive life, y'all. Peace out.